Your academics and your knowledge of the material will only get you so far. Then you have to be able to demonstrate it. We know from a lot of research that the most common study strategies for students are rereading textbooks, rereading notes, and highlighting. And all of that focuses on the short term, and it focuses on getting information in. And this does not actually help us learn, because learning is a two-way street, with information coming in and information going out. Cramming, rereading, and highlighting only focus on getting information in. This is where retrieval practice comes in, and it's a crucial part of any study strategy. Retrieval practice is when you push yourself to write, tell, or draw what you've already learned, and it can be especially helpful for terms or concepts you may not remember as clearly. The process of remembering will help strengthen your memory and will help you identify what you know and what you don't know. Today, we're going to talk about using flashcards as a method for retrieval practice. And by the end of this video lesson, you will understand what to do with your vocabulary list after it's been assigned, how to make and study your flashcards so that you can recall the information when prompted to retrieve it without your notes in front of you, and common pitfalls that students fall into that prevent them from having success using flashcards. Next week, we will do a second installment of effective study skills, looking at note-taking and studying for exams. Let's get started. If you open up the PDF labeled Unit 1 Vocabulary, you'll see a series of boxes like the one on my screen. These are called Freyer models, and that's just because the guy who came up with this template was named Fred Freyer. The Freyer model is simply a graphic organizer that helps you not only learn the definition of terms, but better understand how to use them in context. It isn't very helpful or purposeful, of course, if you can recite a definition verbatim, or word for word, but still have no clue how to use it when speaking or writing. This model is aimed at making sure your vocabulary practice is useful. In the center, you have the vocabulary term. In the top left corner, the definition that we will be using for the course. In many cases, words have multiple meanings, and so I do want you to use the definition that I provide to you because it is the one that best fits the context of history lessons. In the top right, you have a little bit more information in case the definition still leaves you unsure how to apply the term, what context it would be used in. This is not something that you will put on your flashcard, rather it's a reference for you to help you figure out how to use this term or in what context this term applies. And then the bottom two squares give you examples and non-examples. Examples, you'll find synonyms, the term used in a sentence, concrete illustrations. Non-examples, you'll see opposites or antonyms so that you can hopefully really visualize what this term means and what it doesn't. And then right here, the word and the definition are all you're going to put onto your flashcards. Let's talk quickly about how to make your flashcards. This may seem pretty obvious, but you want to make sure to write neatly and use a pen that does not bleed through your index cards. If you can see parts of the definition through the card when you're looking at the side with the term on it, you're not going to be sure whether you actually got it memorized or if you're just guessing correctly using the clues you're seeing through the card. Vocabulary isn't about guessing at all. It's one of the few things that truly requires memorization, which is demonstrated when you can repeat the definition out loud without using notes, the internet, or any other supports. You may want to write your definitions in pencil to avoid ink bleeding through, though frequent use of the cards can cause pencil to smudge and become hard to read. I recommend a simple ballpoint pen and blue or black ink for the definition and a Sharpie or other marker for writing the term across the front of the card. Once you've made a flashcard for each one of the vocabulary terms in your glossary, you're ready to start studying them with the goal of memorization. Let's start with the basics. For each card in the deck, hold it in front of you and say the word out loud. Economy. Now, without turning the card over, see if you can say the definition out loud as well. When you're first learning unfamiliar terms, you probably won't be able to recite the definition for any of the words, so don't get discouraged. That's normal. The key part of this stage is just figuring out what you know and what you don't know. If you don't know the definition, in other words, you can't recite it from memory out loud without looking at the back of the card, flip the card over and read the definition out loud to yourself. A system of making and trading things of value. Again, a system of making and trading things of value. Okay, let's make sure we're associating the definition with the correct term. Flip the card over and read the term out loud, then read the definition out loud. Economy, a system of making and trading things of value. Economy, a system of making and trading things of value. Economy, a system of making and trading things of value. Very good. Now put it at the back of the pile and see if you can get more of the definition next time it pops up without having to flip the card over. In survey research of student study strategies, more than 20% of K-12 students and more than 50% of college students report using flashcards. But do students use flashcards effectively? Not necessarily. Many students use flashcards, and that's great. But here's a surprise, it's not always retrieval practice. Researchers at Kent State University have demonstrated that students actually cheat themselves by flipping cards over too early and dropping cards out of their deck too quickly before they've truly committed the definition to memory. Here are 3 tips to make flashcards more powerful. Number 1, retrieve. Make sure you are retrieving the answer or pulling the information from your brain, not from the card or your glossary. After reading aloud the term on the front of the card, say the definition out loud before flipping the card over to check your response. If you don't say it out loud or try writing the answer down before you check your answer, you'll think to yourself, of course, I know this. But when the test comes, you'll realize you cannot recall the definition without the card in front of you. This is called the illusion of knowing. Don't get duped. Number 2, reorder. You'll want to shuffle your deck each time you go through it to challenge yourself with spacing and interweaving, instead of going through the flashcard deck in the same order again and again. You want to make sure you aren't tricking yourself into thinking you've memorized the definitions of each term, when really what you've memorized is the order the definitions show up in. Obviously, that won't be the same order they show up on a test. You want to make sure you associate the correct definition with the term and can recite it from memory. Number 3, repeat. Keep flashcards in your deck until you've correctly retrieved it 3 times. Just because you've correctly recalled the definition once doesn't mean you get it. We know from research that students have a tendency to remove their cards too early. In other words, to put them in a pile of cards they know and to stop studying them. So by ensuring you keep a card in the deck until you've correctly recalled the definition 3 times, you're holding yourself accountable for making sure you really know it, rather than simply thinking you do. This also helps add space between cards in the deck, what scientists call lag, which further increases learning because you're giving your brain processing time to commit the information to your long-term memory. Many students are turning to tech tools for flashcards, like Kahoot, Quizlet, and Anki. Recent research suggests students may benefit from these conceptual flashcards as long as they engage students in retrieval practice of broader ideas compared to detailed flashcards of definitions more typical of students' use. Quizlet has a feature where students view questions until they've correctly answered twice. This is supported by research on successive learning or the importance of retrieving multiple times, not just once. As a bonus, Quizlet is a great tool for students to create and use flashcards outside of class too. So what's the verdict? Is it okay to use Quizlet instead of index cards? Quizlet can be an effective tool for learning vocabulary as long as you are completing the activities that force you to use retrieval or test your ability to recall the information from memory without any notes or definitions in front of you. It will not help you to mindlessly flip through a vocabulary set in Quizlet without using the Learn activities. Just to be sure we're all on the same page, this is what your Unit 1 vocabulary set looks like. You'll make a flashcard, whether using index cards or a tool like Quizlet, for each term in the set. Remember, you only need to put the term on one side and the definition on the other. The characteristics, examples, and non-examples are meant to help you put the term in context so you can make sense of how to use it or where you might see it in readings, videos, podcasts, etc. For homework, you will make flashcards using the Unit 1 terms provided to you via email and as an attachment to the assignment directions. Then, just as you learned today, make sure you are studying the terms using the tips in this video and go through the full deck of flashcards at least 3 times. You want to make sure that when you're studying your flashcards, you study for about 20 minutes, but after 20 minutes that you do take a break because your brain can really only focus intently for 20 minutes. All right, folks, that's it for today. Please make sure you get a dedicated class notebook ASAP, but definitely no later than next Friday's notebook check, which will count as a quiz grade. While you're at it, grab a few packages of index cards and be sure to let me know if you need help getting these materials for class. If you've completed this Ed puzzle and posted a comment on today's discussion thread, all you have left to do are your flashcards. Have a great day.